Hey guys, it's John. I hope everyone's week has been okay so far. I hope nobody's getting sick. Everyone's staying inside, 6 feet away from strangers at all times. I'm very excited to make another video for y'all, and hopefully you enjoy what we're going to be talking about this week on Truth for the Youth. Guys, this week we are talking about Easter eggs, the Easter Bunny, and candy, because that's what Easter is all about. Wait, what? Easter's not about rabbits? What about hares? What about eggs? Okay, so it turns out that Easter eggs and the Easter Bunny and all of this mess is just a leftover ritual from a holiday that was adapted into Easter by Christians. So let's find out what Easter really means by going over the week leading up to it. Today, or the day that I'm making this video at least, April 5th, is Palm Sunday. It's the day that we celebrate Jesus' entrance into Jerusalem, where they laid down a bunch of palm leaves so that he wouldn't have to step on the dirt. Jesus was recognized as a king this day. Jesus this week makes his way down to the temple, and he busts up in there and starts flipping over tables and casting people out, because as we all know, church is not a place for stealing from people, for taking people's money, for lying to people. And Jesus wasn't having any of that. He said, "Your heart's empty. Yeet!" When we get to Thursday, that's when Jesus has the very final meal that he's ever going to have with his disciples. It's super exciting. The Last Supper. They probably had Fritos. But that night, Jesus gets arrested. He's taken before Pontius Pilate the next day, who sentences him, after a lengthy conversation, to death by crucifixion. Good Friday, as we Christians call it, is the day that Jesus was hung up on the cross to die. The Romans thought that they were punishing him for being a rabble-rouser, for riling up the Jewish population of Israel, for inciting revolt against Roman leadership. But Jesus' death was playing a different story, because it wasn't Jesus truly that was up on the cross, but our own sin. When Jesus died, his last words were, "It is finished." As in, not only the life that he had come to earth to live, but the mission that he had come to earth to achieve. See, Jesus, by living the perfect life that he lived, took all of our sin onto his shoulders and carried it with him into death, bearing the punishment for our sin on his own life. It's sad. It's sad to think that each and every one of our sins is what put Jesus on that cross. After they made sure he had passed, the Romans took Jesus down and buried him in the tomb of one of his followers who had volunteered that space just for that purpose. The Romans, see, they didn't believe that Jesus was God, but they were afraid that his followers truly did. And so they put guards outside of his tomb, making sure that no one could disturb it. They picked the roughest, the toughest, the burliest, and the bravest to protect this tomb, because they thought that that would prevent anything further from happening. Boy, were they wrong. 3 days after Jesus was dead and buried in that tomb, that stone in front of the door moved, and out came Jesus. And I imagine he scared the pants right off of those poor Roman guards. 2 of Jesus' disciples, both of whom happened to be named Mary, went to the tomb so that they could prepare Jesus' body for a more proper burial. But they saw this tomb empty. Then, even crazier, they saw an angel standing by the tomb who told them not to be afraid, probably because angels are really scary, and that Jesus had risen, that he was no longer dead, but alive. They went back to tell everyone what they had heard, and on the way back, They saw Jesus with their own eyes. Now, Jesus spent the remainder of his days after his resurrection showing himself to many of his disciples, to thousands of people, proving his resurrection to be true to the eyes of many, including appearing directly to the disciple Thomas, who questioned that Jesus would have been risen. All right, so now I have some questions, because I want you guys to really think about what Easter means for our faith, what Easter means for our lives. So get some pen and paper, because I'm going to be going pretty quickly. Pause the video after each question, think about it, write your answer down, and we'll talk about it tonight in our hopefully better group chat. The first question is, how does Jesus' sacrifice atone for our sins? To explain a little bit further, how does Jesus dying on the cross pay for someone else's mistakes, pay for everyone else's mistakes? Question 2, why does it matter that Jesus rose from the dead? What is it about his resurrection that changes the story, that makes it essential? Why did Jesus, instead of going to heaven, have to rise again and walk the earth for a few more weeks with his disciples? Question C, how should the truth of Easter affect my life? If we accept these events to be true, that Jesus died on the cross to pay for our sins, that he descended into torment for 3 days and rose again, having bested sin itself, having defeated death, and that he offers this to us, how should that affect our life? What should that change in our everyday action? How should this change what we do and who we are? And finally, question 5. What's stopping me? What's standing in my way? What's preventing me from entering into that relationship from Christ? If I already have, what's stopping me from growing with Jesus? What idol is in my life? What thing is more important to me than faith? Guys, think about these questions. Think about your answers. Think about what Easter means to you. And we're going to talk about all this tonight, hopefully around 5:30, 6 o'clock on our Skype chat. I'm going to be sending it out in the Google Photos group chat. So if you need any of the information, hit me up and I'll get you connected. Thanks, guys.